Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Warren, and welcome to Candidate Night 2024. We're going to do a little bit of an alternating schedule here. We're going to start with the town and then go to some school people and back to the town. Each person's going to get 3 minutes to make their statement, and then we're going to have 3 minutes for questions. And then once everyone has spoken, we'll open it up to questions, and you can aim your question at whoever you want at that point. I have 2 statements from people that I will read when it's their turn. So with that, we're going to start with this year's candidates for selectmen. And this is when the time comes to vote, it's a vote for 2, and each person will be a 3-year term. So the first person, and I took this I didn't take it in any particular order. I took it off what was sent to me. So the first person is Michael Dean.
Can I put a
Is he gonna?
Hey, sweetie.
Does anybody need the microphone?
Me.
Okay.
Thank
you, David. I'm actually running for 3 positions. So do I speak for 9 minutes? No. We'll bring you back on. No. All right, so I'm Mike Dean. I think most people here know me. I am one of the 2 administrators for the Enfield listserv. You've probably seen my walls of text this week. I've been in Enfield for 25 years. I have 3 boys who've gone through the school systems here. And with one of them in college, about done with that, and one out of high school and pursuing his career in construction, I find myself with extra time on my hands. And so when it came time to sign up, I signed up for 3 positions this time. I'm also on budget already. That term expires next year. I won't seek re-election for that position. I've been doing the budget committee for 10 years, and it was always my intention to use that time to learn about town government and learn how this town's budgeting process works so that I could take that to the select board, and take that experience to select board eventually. I also serve on the ZBA currently. I've been the chair for off and on for about 7 years, 7 years of that board. That's a different kind of board, and it appeals to my sense of orderliness and following process, just like the supervisor of the checklist position does as well. That's it. I shouldn't spend any more time talking about what ZBA is. No, thank you, Nancy. I work problem solving in IT, and that's something I very much enjoy, being able to talk to the people and understand what their problems are, find creative solutions for their problems, whether it's just something that broke and we need to get it fixed, or a long-term solution in technology or even in business process. And I'd like a chance to do that on the select board. I wrote a whole bunch of other stuff about my family, my work history, time on the budget, my urge to do community service that started when I was young, my time in the Navy, etc. But I don't want to spend all 3 minutes just talking about myself. Is it? I got 20 seconds left? All right, that's great. So that's it.
He plays guitar too.
Okay, let's open it up for questions. Sure, that'd be great. Questions about me, about my service? Yeah.
What do you think the biggest challenge facing the select board is in the coming 3 years of your potential term?
Balancing service levels with rising taxes. I think that's the number one issue on people's minds is, why do taxes keep going up? And how can we help people understand why that's happening? Help them understand which direction the taxes are likely to go in the future, where they've been in the past. And you're going to see a lot of that at town meeting this year when our chair of the budget committee presents his slides, and he has a lot of graphs that show that information. But there's a difference between the budget committee saying that and select board implementing implementing the town's desires that are voted on at town meeting. So I think that's going to be a big challenge for the select board. Charlie?
Can you talk a short time on SB2?
SB2. Yeah, so I came out on the listserv against it. And did anybody read that?
Yes.
All right, so you probably all know that. I guess what I'll just tell you is I'm convinced at this point that if we vote against SB2, we're making it harder for people who don't have the same sort of, this is a kind of a dog whistle word, but the same sort of privilege that I do as a college educated white collar worker who works from home. You know, I've got a lot of freedom in my schedule. And a lot of us who attend town meeting are like that. The people who don't attend town meeting often don't, because they have to make different choices with their time. Some of them often, that's the only time they have with their families is Saturday mornings. They have other obligations during the weekend. So very simply, if you look at the number of people who cast ballots during the regular elections and compare that to the number of people that usually come to town meeting, it's like 1,000 people, sometimes 1,400 cast ballots, 1,500 at big elections. And we rarely have more than 200 people at a town meeting. And to me, that says it's easier for people to go to the ballot box. That's it. Susan?
When you did have SB2 here in Enfield, and you did get rid of it, how many people went to that deliberative session?
I don't know.
Well, I think that's something you need to take into account. I asked you this afternoon, why can't town meeting be online? We're online tonight. Why can't town meetings, instead of going to something like SB2, go online so people from home can participate?
The technology is there to support that. The laws aren't. The laws and the society and the culture are not ready for that.
The law won't let you do that?
Correct.
Thank you.
Tim, did you have one last
Yeah.
question?
And it's fairly close end. There are two warrant articles. Petition warrant articles regarding limiting the ability for the authority of the select board to spend $100,000 out of the unassigned fund balance and no more than 150 out of the capital improvement fund without voter approval. And I just want to know, do you support those or not?
I haven't given it a lot of thought.
Because they will say that the select board cannot spend more, can I never spend $500,000 on the $200,000 piece of land without asking first.
So on this vote, when I go to the polls, I'll be guided by the select board's recommendation.
They don't recommend it.
They recommend.
I don't think they recommend it. They can do it.
Okay, in that case, I'm probably going to vote against that. Thank you.
Well, one more question here.
Go ahead.
I'm Steve Patton. I have different thoughts about CRP and TIF money. I want to know what your opinion of those two are, please.
CIP and what's the other?
TIF.
TIF. I haven't seen the TIF do anything. I've heard through my time on budget committee that the town is interested in using that TIF district in the future, but I haven't seen it really do anything for us yet. So I'm not opposed to letting it expire. CIP, I think, has been an excellent program for the community, and I'd like to see it continue. Possibly with some changes. Thank you. Thank you.
The next person is Alice Kennedy, who's currently on the select board and she's running for re-election and she can't be here tonight. So I'm going to read her statement. Please accept my greatest apologies that I cannot be with you in person this evening. It's hard to believe that it was just 1 year ago that I stood before you, introducing myself to many of you for the first time. It feels both longer and shorter at the same time. I've learned volumes and yet still have much to learn about what makes the Enfield engine run, how we can achieve our shared vision for the best Enfield we can create. I am grateful for this opportunity and honor. I've been able to reconnect with familiar and friendly faces that I finally met through my 2 years as town secretary, learning about the new to me town manager form of government. During my time as town secretary, I had the privilege of attending almost every meeting, including select board, budget committee, zoning board of adjustment, library trustee, and conservation commission. It was an intense learning experience. During this time, I learned about the driving concerns of the town from several different perspectives and through very different lenses. Over the past year, as your select board member, I've learned alongside from Kate, John, Eric, and Tracy as we highlight our differences in thinking and find new ways forward to achieve the goals of the town. A little about me. I moved to Enfield in 2018 to pursue a career in health services research. I started out by renting and now proudly own the greenhouse on Main Street. I work full-time and am a student part-time. And like many of you, cut my coat to my cloth so I can live in and enjoy all that Enfield has to offer. The health of the community is what drives me professionally and personally. I love to think about health at a systems level, and I love to jump in and be part of it in my own backyard. When I think of the importance of my health in my personal and professional life, I look at all the factors that drive the health of an individual or community, not just physical health, but mental health, social health, and financial health. I work to take all these factors into consideration when decisions are brought before the select board. If you attend or watch a meeting, you may find that I pose more questions than answers, and that I spend more time listening than talking. I believe that my most critical role as your select person is that of the listener. I've spent the year inviting and joining in respectful dialogue and seeking shared understanding of shared challenges. We have faced several challenges this year, including the organizationally of large-scale improvement projects. The ideal path forward will be illuminated as we move forward together, continuing to adjust and to be open to course corrections as the community guides us. However, we must celebrate our successes as we face our challenges. Our thriving community successfully reached not one, but 2 community-based recommendations regarding the Johnston Beach and the property and the Methodist Hill property. The community nursing program was instated and funded completely independently for a 3-year test to see if this service can help our community be a supportive environment for aging in place. If elected to the select board, I look forward to continuing to learn more about your varying perspectives and working to incorporate diverse viewpoints to address similar challenges and to facilitate and celebrate our successes. To close, I'd like to share some reflections on my first year as your select person. Reflection 1, running a town is more complex than I could have imagined. We'd be sunk without the hard work and guidance of groups like the Budget Committee, Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Heritage Commission, Library Trustees, Conservation Commission, and those who provide public comment, and several other groups and individuals who regularly take the time to add context and education to topics that come before the select board. Reflection 2, the employees of our town work tirelessly to keep the Enfield engine running. It is way more than a 9-to-5 job, and they take it incredibly serious with an obvious deep sense of commitment to our community. I'm humbled by their efforts, and it inspires me to give more myself. Reflection number 3, I still have much more to learn. I am committed to listening to your concerns and being part of all respectful discussions of disagreement. Conflict is where we can find growth together, and I remain determined in my efforts to weave all perspectives into our path forward. Reflection 4, our current select board makes a great team. We don't always agree, and for that I'm grateful. We work together respectfully to find solutions and learn from each other in the process. Thank you for considering my candidacy for select board. I look forward to seeing you at town meeting. That's Alice Kennedy. Next is Kate Plumley. There you are.
person's question. Folks at home.
Yeah.
For anybody else who can repeat the questions after they're asked for the people watching at home. Thanks.
That seems super reasonable. So, hi, everyone. I snuck in a little bit late, busy. So I'm Kate Plumley Stewart. I'm currently the chair of the Enfield Select Board, and I'm in my 6th year, finishing out my 2nd term. In my early and mid-20s, I was the chair of the Mascoma School District School Board. So I declared myself proudly retired at 27, and then here I am. And it's one of those moments where I looked and I saw about 6 years ago that we had a pretty serious issue. We ran ourselves into the negative. So my background is in international business. I am an Enfield resident. I was born and raised here. So I have been an Enfield resident for 43 years. And I saw an opportunity to apply what I had learned in school and give back to our community, to look and really keep my eye on our bottom line, to read the audit, because if any of you have ever read an audit, it's not terribly exciting, but there's this wonderful page that summarizes the findings. If you have findings, it's bad. You have to fix them. That activity was not happening here. So just doing some of those small activities, Select Board doesn't do anything earth-shattering, really. We are a vehicle to take in feedback, and our only real function is to serve the voters and provide direction to the town manager. We set up committees. So, for example, Alice referred to the Johnston Beach one. We have a Methodist Hill. So we have a lot of different vehicles to aggregate knowledge and thought processes and to bring them in and to help folks out as they kind of communicate how they want to see their community. We have a great tool now. The master plan was passed last year at town meeting, and they're in the 2nd iteration where they're doing the not required, but still very helpful chapters. They're in the middle of the zoning project. So there are a lot of great things here. The number one thing I can bring to the table, I feel, is my business background. And the other component that I can bring to the table is my ability to put varying mindsets on committees so that we can have really good discussion and compromise, because I don't think that having everyone agree is good. I think working through our disagreements together works really well for Enfield. That's how we become more moderate. And it's the reason why Enfield works where some of the bigger wide world doesn't. So I value your support. I've had a great time working with our all new 5-person select board. It's been really fantastic. And I'd appreciate your vote.
Questions?
Susan?
Yeah, I'm always concerned about finding a permanent home for the food pantry. Is that in the plan with getting involved and moving up the food and all the rest of them?
So Susan's asking about sorry, I put a timer on myself, you guys. I'm trying not to take up a lot of your evening. So Susan's asking a question about a permanent home for the food pantry. So I wear multiple hats in this community. So that's a bit of a conflict of interest. I'm very honest about when I have a conflict of interest. I'm the interim executive director of Friends of Mascoma. And I'm outgoing because we hired someone new who started on Monday. So it has been a conversation. Nothing is finalized on where we're going to land. And I'm saying this is my Friends of Mascoma hat on. And I feel that that is an operations question that Ed would have to answer. Okay, Tim was next.
Why was there no appraisal done on the Malt's property before we spent $500,000?
So there were comparables. And again, that would be an operations question. That Ed
We've
can
asked them, we didn't receive.
Okay.
They were not.
No. If he would tell you the logic. So operations typically runs themselves unless there's a considerable question, but the comparable is Brownies, which sold for actually slightly more per acre.
But there was no appraisal done on the property, bought for twice the appraised value.
You can have that conversation with Ed.
What's in the record?
Sure.
Dave?
I like the challenge of February absent. What do you see as the most important challenge that the town will face, or the select board will face, in the coming years of your term?
I think the financial I'm sorry, I need to say the question. I saw Angus giving me the look. So, Dave Beaufay asked about the most significant significant challenge. Okay, so I think we know about the financial challenges. I think the piece that people aren't thinking about is about the type of growth that we are willing to accept and how we can bring new revenue in. So we talk a lot about saving money. We don't talk enough about how we bring in revenue and why, and whether we are going to be NIMBYs and say, which is not in my backyard, or we are going to allow some kind of growth that fits within our master plan. So I think measuring that growth within the master plan and the vision is going to be our toughest challenge.
One more.
Madeline.
Yeah, where do you see this growth coming from? Where would you put your emphasis on finding revenue?
Yeah, so this is not where do I, I'm sorry, where do you think we're going to see, where do I think we're going to see?
Where's you on select board, what are you going to promote is the way to achieve this growth?
So what is the select board going to promote to achieve this growth? So, oh, me personally. Sure. It's not a personal decision. We don't act as an individual vehicle, but we have a planning and zoning department. So we support our planning and zoning department. The master plan guides. And so we have our strategy and we have our goals, but we know that developers are coming in to look at developments and putting in plans in the downtown area. ZBA has two exceptions going in from a large developer. So we know those things are coming. The part that's going to be a challenge to navigate is how we match this development with the community needs and helping them fit in.
Thank you. We're going to make a little bit of a switch now and move to the school board candidates. Don Archambault, are you here? There you are. I'm sorry, I don't know you. And this is, it's for a 3-year term and she's from Enfield.
Yep, I am Dawn Archambault, as mentioned, from Enfield. I am a class of 2000 graduate of Mascoma. I lived here my entire life. I did move away for about 8 years, living in Heartland. And I have a class of 2024 senior. And when we were living in Heartland, there was no high school. So you got school choice. You could send your kid wherever they wanted to go. And having grown up here, having seen the beautiful renovation, the improvement to the programming, we chose to move back here. We moved back here in December of 2020, which was quite a time to move. But we have loved being back and have really loved being back as part of the district. This is home for me. I did grow up in Canaan, but I went to high school with so many people around here. And, you know, I always joke that if you don't know me, you probably know my dad. And, you know, I've really loved being back in town. I've been on the Enfield Village Association for 3 years. I just stepped down so that I could potentially take on this role. I have been on the board of North Country Community Theater because I think arts are very important and it's a really great outlet for so many people as well as sports, because I definitely have a sports kid too. You know, I am the current director of marketing for the co-op, and you know, I understand budgeting, I understand community work, I understand, you know, just kind of getting your hands in the ground. And thought, you know, I have a kid graduating. I also find myself with maybe more time because I actually don't know how to have downtime. You may also, maybe you've seen me and didn't know it. I play Mrs. Claus out here at the town tree lighting. And I handwrite back all the letters to the kids that drop them off at the Enfield House of Pizza. So, you know, just kind of excited to be part of the community again and give back to a district that I love.
Any questions?
I don't know you, sorry.
The school district has, over the past 4 years, increased their budget a total of 4% just this year. Previous 3 years, not at all, or in 1 year, even a decrease. What is your perspective of the direction the school budget should go?
I think it should be increased within reason. I think we found ourselves in a pretty precarious situation with that school because we kicked the can down the road for 30 years. And I don't think that that's wise. I'm also pretty fiscally conservative when it comes to a lot of things. I don't think that we need to spend money, but I think that it is critical that we maintain that school and continue to improve the programming, because that drew my family here, and you want to draw families here to help offset that. So I'm not for spending money to spend money, but I think it's critical that we maintain that building and the programming.
Thank you. Next is Tim Josephson, and he's from Canaan, and you'll still be able to vote for him here in Enfield. And it's a 3-year term.
Thanks for allowing me to come here. My name is Tim Josephson from Canaan, and I'm running for the Canaan seat for the district school board. I've been lucky to serve for 3 terms now. So this is my 9th year on the school board. I've spent the last 1.5 years as the chair, the year before that as acting chair, and vice chair for many years before that. My wife and I, we've lived in Canaan for 17 years now, putting down roots. We've got 2 daughters at the high school, sophomore and a senior, also class of 24. So education's been really big in my house. We've been really, focused on making sure that, our kids have what they need, and it extends beyond my family. And as of being a member of the school board, it kind of, the whole district becomes my family, right? And so, just looking at what they need and what do our kids need to succeed in this world. That's really kind of what's driven me to keep doing this on the school board. At the same time, we've been able to balance the needs of the kids with the realities of what us taxpayers have to face, right? So we've been really working hard at maintaining nice budgets that are not too big, not too small, that meet what we need. One of the things that I'm most proud of to put through here in the school board, or in the school district, we implemented our first strategic plan ever. We had not had a strategic plan, so we had not decided what direction we want to go, what kind of programs are important to us, what kind of vision do we have for the future. So I'm really proud of that. A little bit more about me. I'm a planner at the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission. So you might see me there working with towns. I work a lot in various capacities in that way. So that's just a little bit about me. Happy to answer any questions. Dr. Buffet, then Tim.
I'll ask the same question again. You've had your hands on the budget for the past 6 or 9 years, however many it has been for the school. How have you accomplished what you've done in the last few years? Because we could certainly learn a lot about that.
Well, it takes a lot of cooperation between the budget committee and the school district. The question was the same as the previous one. How have we been able to manage making budgets that have been either level funded, close to level funded, or as in this year at 3.4%. We start with a zero-sum budget. We start at 0, and we say, well, what do we need? What did we do last year on this? And so that the budget committee literally goes line by line through our budget, just like many other ones do. But we have a very congenial relationship. We try to listen a lot, and we just really try to weigh the needs and say, is this really needed? Can we find funding somewhere else? Can we find grant sources? We are very lucky to have an administration that's very resourceful. Our school administrators are really smart at finding ways to find money. And then at the same time, once we have that budget, we always have been returning money to towns too. So, it's hard to predict 18 months out what you're going to spend on food when you're doing your home budget, right? It's the same thing for the district. So we've been trying to just be mindful of that and really make sure we watch what we're doing. And with a, increase this year of just over, between 3 and 4%, compared to inflation, I think that's pretty good. So, yeah. Tim.
Aaron, another 24.
A lot of 24s here, yeah.
Thank you for all your service and you and Scott for working the budget. But I wanted to ask, in the last few years, there's been some pretty good staff come on board at the high school in particular, and staffing for schools throughout the state is not easy. Recruiting is thinner than ever, and I just didn't know if you had any ideas on how we can make it more attractive to get the people that we have the same kind of people we've gotten in the last few years.
Yep, the question was asking about, how do we retain this excellent staff that we've been able to get? And how do we remain competitive in the job market for teachers and administrators? It's not easy, I will say. One thing that we did last year, and thanks to the voters that approved it, was we successfully negotiated a teacher's contract with them that gave them a decent pay raise that brought it in line closer to the other districts in our region. We were constantly losing teachers to other districts because they could offer better pay. They were driving farther to get better pay. So we were able to meet that and balance that against what we could do as a town. And we said, what can we do? What can you meet? And we found a middle ground. Another thing that we can do is just being creative with some of our recruiting. And I think this teacher's contract will start paying dividends, and we've been able to hire, like you said, recently some really good teachers. We want to retain them and keep them going. So it's not much more than that, unfortunately, but just being very proactive. One small thing we did in our contract was to bump up the time when they retire, like have to say they're retiring. We found out we were way behind other districts in that. So we were losing like an entire month plus when we could have been posting positions for teachers that were retiring. We gave them too much longer. So we tightened that up. That's hopefully getting us a little more competitive out there. So any other questions?
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
We're to shift gears again. We're going to move back to the town. And the first two speakers are going to be, they are for 1 year, and you vote for one of them. The first one, Michelle. I hope I say this right. Michelle Illich DeBoss. Not here. Okay. The next one then would be David Beaufay.
Bill, what position?
Budget committee? I didn't say that. I'm sorry. My apologies.
So, as introduced and as I've posted in the listserv, I'm not quite as tall as Tim was. I've lived here in Enfield over 40 years, so not quite as many as Kate, but in the same post-Civil War farmhouse in the village. And during that time, I've absorbed a healthy amount of Yankee frugality. We moved here education poor with our first child due imminently, in large part due to its affordability of this community. Unfortunately, even today, as I was talking to a town employee this morning, they had found that that was no longer true and had to move out of town and live in another community nearby. That said, I love the Enfield community then, and I do so even more now. I try to give back in many ways, now including seeking this position on budget committee, despite telling myself that I'd done my duty a long time as moderator. After careers in local primary care, medical practice, and preschool special education, my wife and I retired during the COVID pandemic. We're currently on our fixed income. We're comfortable on our fixed income, but not wealthy. My big fancy truck is a 2015 Subaru Forester, mistreated like a truck and likely my last vehicle. No, it is not an EV. Our kayaks are decades old. While in practice and serving as town moderator for many years, I kept my opinions to myself and avoided conflicts of interest. However, in recent years, I have become increasingly concerned regarding the tax impacts on our Enfield residents. Fiscal responsibility should not be dirty words. Yet when I attended various official town meetings as audience, my perspective is often received with polite acknowledgement perhaps, but ignored without even discussion of the merits of my input. Therefore, I'm seeking a voting seat at the table of the budget committee with the goal of increased leverage for meaningful tax reform for Enfield taxpayers. I support the slate of like-minded candidates for Budget Committee that you will be hearing this evening, who are prepared to ask the hard questions as urged by the chair of the current Budget Committee and Select Board. We will provide recommendations for the hard answers to those questions. Serial double-digit tax increases, even if due to, in part to debt service for the 2 building projects, cannot hide behind the much lower school district and Grafton County increases. 12 to 15% compounded over the past 2 years annually is much higher than inflation and not acceptable. I look forward to meeting with you, answering your questions, and learning more of your perspective at this forum. Thank you.
Any questions? One.
Your knowledge, is there any way, these new projects we've got on can be rolled back or price of this? Do you have anything, those figures? Yeah.
David Stewart asked if there's any way to roll back any of those projects. They have been approved by bond at town meeting. And I have attended unofficially quite a number of both the first and second Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee meetings. I don't see that there is any impetus on that part to make that happen. I don't know if it's legally possible to do so given the bonds, but even if there was, I don't think there's much pressure to do so. And I think that the cost increases are going to make it very difficult for them to keep even within the budget of what they provided initially, and we voted on the bond issues.
Ron Woolley, I've got a question for you. Would you support a moratorium on all new projects until we completed the ones we've got?
So the question was, would I support a moratorium on all new projects until the current ones are completed?
Yes.
It's probably not within the domain of the Budget Committee per se, but I definitely feel like the way to impact policy is often through the pocketbook. And I would certainly support doing anything possible to put limits on that, and certainly to prevent it from becoming further increases.
Sorry, Nancy, Budget Commission. The next person is, would be for a 2-year term, and you vote for one person, so this person is Jean Henderson somewhere. There you are. I knew better than to think you were sitting with your husband.
I haven't been Henderson for over 50 years.
Oh, that's right.
I apologize to all of you that have seen my post on the listserv. I'm going to sort of repeat some of the same things of those of you that don't know me. I've lived in Enfield for over 50 years, just really crossing the line from White River Junction, so not far away as a youngster. I'm a lifelong learner, and I always feel like there's new things to learn no matter what, no matter how many times you've been through the process, no matter how many times you've been in the position. I was on the Budget Committee before for 4 years, got a little frustrated, but I'm hoping that I can sort of have a new perspective and kind of pick up and continue on and to try to help make some changes. I've worked in the Mascoma School District and the Hanover School District. Talk about teachers' pay, the ends of the spectrum was pretty wild. Working for the Director of Special Ed and the Assistant Superintendent, working very closely with them, doing budgets and putting financial information together. And I also did the same thing working at Dartmouth Hitchcock. I worked in the cashier's office. I was the manager of the gift shop and responsible for 50 volunteers and 3 paid staff. responsible for providing financial reports and documents to the Board of Trustees, which there's no longer, I don't think, a Board of Trustees. And so, as you can see, I've really had an interest in financial things, and my husband and I have had a small excavating company for over 26 years, and I'm the one that I call me the volunteer bookkeeper. And so I've had to, provide a lot of information to our accountant at tax time, meet deadlines and do forms for the New Hampshire Department of Revenue or for septic systems or whatever it may be. Something that oh, and the last thing, I was also a patient financial counselor at Dartmouth Hitchcock, which I truly enjoyed. Meeting with patients both in my office and sometimes in their hospital room, unfortunately, to try to process paperwork for them to be able to get financial assistance, because many people aren't always aware of it, but Dartmouth really gives away a lot of money, and you don't have to be dirt poor to get that money. You just have to fill out a lot of paperwork, and if you're willing to give your tax return and your bank statements, then you can probably get something. But something that I have been thinking about this time around for the budget committee, and in a position that I was in before when I worked in the school district. When I worked in the school district and for the directors, come budget time, we always had to provide, or myself and the director, to the superintendent and the business manager, a detailed page of reasons for increases and decreases. I feel like I would like to see a little more information forthcoming from town administration to the budget committee to be able to get a clearer understanding and idea of why things are increasing or decreasing. And I feel like it's just, I'm feeling like there needs to be more details. So yeah, that's my
Questions?
piece. Yes. Tim.
I would like to know, as a member of the budget committee, what is your position on the appropriateness of the select board representative having a voting seat?
So Tim is asking what the appropriateness is of a select board member on the budget committee having a vote. I have kind of mixed feelings about that, because I feel like the selectmen are getting a vote at the budget committee level, and then they're getting another vote being on the select board themselves. So I think that's something that I certainly would think about and consider. So yeah, I think it's, you need to know all the ins and outs before you make a decision about that sort of thing, but. Okay.
Do you know that membership as prescribed by state law requires select board members?
So Kate is saying that it's required by law that the membership for the select board member be a voting member on the budget committee. Any other questions, comments? Joan?
You're returning to the committee. You've been on it before, you know what it's like. Are you willing to stand up against the norm, do the right thing for all taxpayers by creating better ways to be more transparent? Or are you going to go along and get along with the status quo? My example here is $500,000 was taken from the CIP fund to purchase land necessary to the new safety facilities, thereby avoiding a vote by taxpayers at town meeting. Do you approve of bypassing taxpayers in this manner?
So Joan's question really is about being more transparent with taxpayers, community members, and or just going along with the status quo and about spending money out of the CIP. I can tell you that the budget committee has no control over CIP spending. That is a totally separate function. And so, that's not really something that I can say I have one thought or another because the CIP is a totally separate function from the budget committee. Other questions or comments? Thanks.
So I have to apologize to Mrs. Patton. It's hard to change names when you meet someone when you're 10. We've known each other a long time. The next, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The next 4 speakers is a vote for 3, and it's for 3-year term. And the first one is Dave Stewart. You want to speak? Budget committee. We're still on budget. We're still on budget committee. Got a whole bunch.
Okay, can you hear me? I can speak loud. I can't hear very well, so if you ask me a question, please speak up. I need to get a new hearing aid. But anyway, I'm David Stewart. I've been around for a little bit. Moved to town with my wife in 1998 to live up on George Hill. I'm a painting contractor. I've been a painting contractor since 1984. Started my business on Cape Cod. I painted all over New England and finally settled here in Enfield. And I like it here. I like the area. I like the people in town for the most part. I get along with most anybody. I disagree. I tend to disagree with people, and I'll let them know. But and I guess that's why I want to be on the budget committee, because I've got some things that I disagree about. I've served on the budget committee for 8 years. It's been several years since, I think 2009, I was voted out, which is fine. Like Paul Mursky, I say, well, now I can go fishing, right? And I worked with Mike Dudley first. Some of you might know Mike. Lee Carrier was a great leader, and Sam Eaton, another budget hawk. And I wasn't planning on running, but after going to the budget hearing and hearing a little bit of a rumbling, a little bit of roar going on, started giving it some thought. I made some comments there. I was thanked for those comments, and I was encouraged to get back on the board. So after thinking about it, yesterday, I made a decision to do it, and you all might have seen my letter to listserv. And I am concerned about this tax rate and the spending that's going on. And the people I worked with on the budget committee, we would not be at this point. I do not believe. I don't want to speak for dead people, but I know just working with them, I cannot envision this happening. And this town will not grow, in my opinion, if these tax rates keep rising. It just squashes development. People aren't, it's going to be up to the select board. They're going to have a tough road to hoe to get people, I think, to invest here if these taxes are so high. Sam Eaton has something called the death spiral. Once you get to a certain level of taxation, people aren't moving here, and people start moving away. And my understanding is we've lost population. You know, we've been told a lot of things. You know, I was very vocal against the school renovation as it was. Very vocal. People came back with stuff. There were a lot of promises made, like we do this school improvement and family's going to move here. Hasn't happened. We were told we put a sewer line out Route 4. We're going to have development coming in. That hasn't happened, but we're still paying for it. We're paying for the school. And now we've got 2 buildings we're going to be paying for. And after they're built, we're going to be paying for maintenance on those buildings.
Time for questions.
Time for questions.
Time for questions.
So,
any questions?
Other than that? Yes.
You're for writing position, is that correct?
Yes. Yes. I just made a late decision. I'll be at the polls probably a good part of the day. Other than that, people will be covering for me. Want to make it clear, it is on the 3-year slate. I know, and I want to be sure to be at the polls to instruct people, because people get mixed up when they go in the polls. And I don't want to vote cast written in for me in opposition to Dave Buffet or Gene. I'm actually running to, may not be nice words, unseat Mr. Fickett. Because I support the other two people that are running for that 3-year seat. So sorry, Mr. Fickett, I don't even know you. I don't know if you're here. I apologize, I guess, but that's what I'm shooting at. So that's the contest here. Yes, Tim.
Dave, and we're two that have not agreed on things in the past.
Yes, that's true. That's quite vehemently.
I'm gonna ask you a question that I don't know if it's fair to ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. As it pertains to budget increases, because we've seen significant increases over the last couple of years. Can you have any idea what kind of percentage of increase you used to see during your 8 years on the budget committee, you say it was?
Overall?
Like average?
No, average was, we shot for 2% every year, 2%. We never wanted to go above we didn't want to go above, the rate of inflation. And the year I got voted out was the year, one year, we're in the middle of the 2008 crash and all that. And contractors, of which I am one, and I wasn't speaking from, I know other contractors who weren't working, never mind, nobody's getting a raise. We're not getting work. And I know everybody, I think I stated at that candidates meeting that, I think you all know, at least back then, every year about this time, you'd get a little leaflet from another painter giving discounts. And we're all in that situation. And Social Security wasn't getting a break that year, wasn't getting an increase. And my line was, we need to hold this down. We just got to watch our money. And then when the economy loosens up, we can get back. I mean, we put off things like paving, which you can only do so long, capital equipment and stuff like that. Lee was really good at that. And I learned, I learned some stuff from him. He was very cautious. And I think when you're dealing with other people's money, you should really be cautious with it. It's not yours.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're welcome.
Staying on budget committee. Next will be James Fickett. And again, this is for a 3-year term.
Jim Fickett from Ivy Road, Ivy Road in Enfield. I've been on the budget committee 1 year, learning how it all works, and I had so much fun that now I want 3 more years of it. As you know, probably before this meeting, and certainly by now, the budget committee, the budget is pretty contentious right now, and the whole process is contentious as well. My emphasis is not so much, no, we're going to keep doing it the way we've done it, or we're going to change it this way. My emphasis is, I really think, even though we're in direct competition and have somewhat different points of view, I really think that the different people involved want pretty compatible things, and better communication and better process can get us all on one point of view. So that's what I'd like to emphasize. One side says we need to stop these increases. The increases in the tax have been too much. Such and such a level is acceptable. More than that is not. We'll start with that. The other side says we're going to keep the town running. We're going to start with that. We'll keep it as cheap as we can. Well, those are different emphases, but they are compatible as well. So in my view, we need more listening, and we need a change in process where the budget committee spends more time constructing different scenarios, saying, okay, you want it cheaper. If we cut one person from the police department, here's what that's going to mean. If we cut 10% from the roads, you're going to get plowed later during the storm. You're going to have more overgrowth around signs. This is what it means. And then I'd like to see more intelligent discussion. I don't mean that sounded terrible, but what I mean is more in-depth discussion, more concrete discussion of choices we can make to influence budget, the overall budget level. So I'll stop there and turn it over for questions.
Questions?
Yeah, Tim Josephson said that, one of the secrets to their success over the school board was zero-sum budgeting. How do you feel about, introducing that as a procedure to the Enfield budget process?
I'd probably alter it by saying inflation-based or something like that, but more or less, what I mean is, if we've got 10% inflation, it doesn't make any sense to say keep exactly the same numbers, but keep the same real level, and allowing no more increase than inflation. Well, that's what I'm saying. I would not support pretending inflation isn't there. But with that proviso, I think that would be a good starting point. Yes.
Steve, I have a question. If you are re-elected, will you be more hopeful and let your opinion be known more at the meetings than you have in the past?
Yeah, that's a good question. I agree. I haven't participated very much in meetings, some, but I felt like I didn't understand the process and the assumptions well enough the first time through the process. So I didn't have strong opinions in most discussions. And yes, I would. That is going to change. Yes. Okay.
Jim, would you just share with folks who never worked with final accounting and have never worked on a budget a little bit about the learning curve? Because I know you've been on a finance.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn. I mean, not only, oh, sorry, the question is, would I share something about the way, about the learning curve, what you need to learn to do a good job on the budget committee? That's paraphrasing. Is that close enough? I guess in my case, I've done some accounting in the past, and I've been a mathematician, so numbers are no stranger. There was something to learn about the budget and the form of the budget, all those details, but it was mostly about the unspoken assumptions. The unspoken assumptions are that the town manager does most of the challenging of the department budgets, and the budget committee looks for some thoughtful ways to challenge more, but that's mostly been done. I would not hold with that. I would say the budget committee should say, when discussing the fire department budget, they should say, well, what exactly does it mean if you don't get your new fire truck this year? Can we put it off 1 year? Can we put it off 2 years? Can we get a cheaper one? And there's some of that, but I think there should be more.
Okay. Staying with the budget committee, the next person is Bradley Rich, and again, this is for a 3-year term.
Evening, everybody. I really appreciate the time to talk to everybody tonight. The first thing I'd like to say is that I'm relatively new to Enfield. My family have lived in Enfield since the 60s. My wife and I purchased the family home in 2008, and we moved here permanently in 2020. So I've been a permanent resident since 2020. My first exposure to the town and town government was I was on the master planning task force, which was an incredible experience. I see Nancy here was also on it. A lot of really good learning took place on that committee, something I really enjoyed. After that was finished, I moved over to the planning board, and I've been on the planning board since 2021. And most recently, there was an opening on the budget committee in December of 23, and I was elected to the budget committee for the remainder of that particular position. So I've been on the budget committee, but only for a few months. And as Bill stated, this is for a 3-year term. on the budget committee. A little background from me. I currently, for the past 10 years, I run a medium-sized nonprofit. It's actually quite large, and I am responsible for, among other things, budgets, both in terms of revenue budgets and for cost budgets, of course. And I spend a lot of time working on budgets each and every year. To Madeline's question, we do zero-based budgeting every single year because we have to. And so hopefully those skills that I've learned over the years will blend well with the skills of the other people on the budget committee. There's a lot of talented people on the budget committee, especially Dimitri. He's actually honestly fantastic. And I really admire him, and he's done a super job, especially this last year. The thing that I would leave you with is that I think that one of the most important things that a budget committee member can do is to talk to people in the town, to learn and talk to them what they are interested in. What services do they want for the town? And at what cost? And I think the more we do that, the more I do that, the better the committee can be in terms of delivering a budget that we can all live with. And I'll leave it there and open it for questions. Yes.
Interested in your background, this not so medium-sized, very large. I can't understand how it's medium-sized, very.
Yeah,
large.
it's a $6 to $7 million revenue budget or operation per year. It's actually we collect clothes from the public, and all of the funds that we sell those clothes goes to the Epilepsy Foundation of New England. So it's a Massachusetts, New Hampshire based organization. So yeah, the numbers. Good question. Yes, sir.
So my question is more of a statement, and it goes back to learning curves. And all of the budget committee members will have to learn from the public. I know the only way I ever learned anything was to ask questions. So all the budget committee members need to talk to each other as well as the public. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that the job of the budget committee and the budget committee members is to do just that, of Ed and the department heads, is to ask questions, to find out if there's ways that we can become more efficient. I think that we at least have to try to become more efficient and to talk about things that we can delay in order to have the budget at more reasonable increases. We all agree that services are needed in town. We all agree that we've got to pay for it. And my only point is that we've got to do everything that we can to make those increases as reasonable as possible, because you know, it hits people in the pocketbook, right? Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Would you take into consideration, people in the community, what the school is doing, and where their budget's at and everything?
Yeah, well, the budget committee doesn't have a lot of input over the school, right? It's two separate things.
Take it into consideration.
But I think we can learn from them, right? I also think that we can learn from other towns. So there are, I looked at the town budgets of 7 other towns with a population similar to Enfield, and they're doing it somehow. I don't know, there may be reasons. They're doing their budgets for a lot cheaper. Why is that? Not to say that we're bad, but why are they able to bring in their operating budgets in single digits and far less in total than we are? I don't know the answer to that, but I think as a member of the budget committee, we should be looking at that. And because I'm new to town, maybe the town and the select board and Ed, the town manager, is doing that. I honestly don't know. But I think that at a minimum, we should look at that. Let's look at the population of towns that have similar to us and see how they do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is once again Budget Committee, it's Dan Regan. He's also running for ZBA, and Dan is not here tonight, and he's provided me with a statement to read to you. And it's a lot smaller print than the last one was, so. Hi, neighbors. My name is Dan Regan, and I'm running for the seat both on the ZBA and the Budget Committee. I'm sorry I cannot be with you this evening. I am disappointed because I think this candidates forum is a wonderful idea, and I appreciate the organizers for putting it together. I also appreciate them reading this quick note to introduce me. My wife, Rihanna, and I first moved to Enfield in 1991 and bought our first home here in 1992. My work required us to move out of the area, and we rented our house for 6 years until we moved back to New England. At that time, we became weekenders and spent any free time we had in this beautiful place. Our youngest of 3 graduated from high school this past May. So we sold our house in southern New Hampshire and moved up here full-time in June. This is where we plan to live the rest of our lives. I do not use the word retired, but I have made a shift away from the 9-to-5 grind. I currently work as an adjunct professor at Colby Sawyer College, teaching in the business school, as a ski patroller at Mount Sunapee, and I do some consulting in the biotechnology industry where I had previously done the 9-to-5 grind. I am also a big believer in giving back, and I'm trying to volunteer for various things around town. To be honest, I do not really like the idea of politics, but I do respect community service and appreciate all the people who have volunteered their time. Please allow me to provide a little more background about myself. I graduated from the University of Massachusetts in 1988 with an undergraduate degree in economics. To qualify for adjunct professor roles, I went back to school in my 50s, got a master's degree, and I graduated from Southern New Hampshire University in 2017 with an MBA and a concentration in finance. I was in the National Guard from 1982 until I was honorably discharged in 1988 with the rank of Sergeant E5. I want to be clear that I'm not a veteran, as our infantry unit was not federally deployed during my time of service. I have too much respect for our veterans to put myself in that class without having fulfilled the requirements. I know the budget and the taxes are hot issues right now. I, like everyone else, would like to see taxes come down. In my opinion, we need to take a responsible approach to how we reduce our taxes. We cannot be cutting essential services nor making hastily short-term decisions that will end up costing us more money down the road. We instead need to take a strategic look at our spending and identify ways to save money. I consider myself fiscally conservative, some people call me cheap, with a reasonable approach to funding solutions. Lastly, I'm not a fan of social media nor going back and forth over email. I do, however, enjoy coffee. If anyone would like to connect over a cup of coffee now or at any time in the future, please do not hesitate to reach out. I look forward to meeting more neighbors in the months and years to come. Respectfully, Dan. We have at least one more person from the school. Did you want to speak tonight? Okay, this is Corrine Morse, and she's running for Budget Committee from Canaan. It's a 3-year term.
Hello, thank you for having me here tonight. I am Corinne Morse. I'm running for the Budget Committee. A little bit about me. I have lived in Canaan for about 5.5 years, moved from Washington State. I was a paraeducator for about 3 years before I had my first child who is special needs, and I started my journey as a stay-at-home mom. He's now 10 and getting ready to enter middle school here. I also have a 7-year-old daughter in 2nd grade. I am the Canaan State Representative. I am on the Grafton County Executive Committee with that to help build the budget for Grafton County as a whole. I serve on the Canaan Planning Board, the Master Plan Subcommittee, Economic Development Committee. I'm the event coordinator for the Economic Development Committee, a PTA member. I'm on the hiring committee for the Canaan Elementary School principal. And I have served for the last few months on the budget committee for the school after a resignation, and I'm hoping to get elected this time around. That's pretty much me.
Any questions?
Yes.
How can do their budget?
You know, that is a really interesting question. We've been having a lot of people who are new to the process and going over everything. And we're really working hard to make sure that we are addressing the school budget and the town budget together and looking at those and how they can work well together. Yes.
Corinne, what do you feel that there are any sort of challenges ahead of you as being a budget member for the school district, and the things that you can think that are difficult or hard to do, or?
Yeah, you know, being a state representative, I have the perspective of what's happening at the state level with education funding. And I think that looking forward at how we are changing things at the state level as far as education freedom accounts and how that will impact our tax dollars is going to be something that looking forward, we're going to need to be able to address and make sure that we keep the budget on track.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is Amber Bissonette here? Okay, Amber is also running for budget committee, 3-year term from Enfield. Kamala Gunn. She's running for clerk. It's a 3-year position. And Deborah Ford is running for moderator, which is a 2-year position. And that's the entire slate of the school election. And now we're going to move to supervisor of the checklist, and I hope I say this right. Jane Rippey, did I say that right? Oh, good. This is a vote for one for a 2-year term.
Hi, I'm Jane Rippey, and my husband and I have lived in Enfield on Holly Drive for a little over 20 years. I'm a retired pharmacist, and so as such, I've worked with multiple databases, and attention to detail is a really important part of being a pharmacist. The reason that I want to be on the supervisor of the checklist is because I think that an accurate list of voters in the town is very important. And I want to make sure that anyone who's legally eligible to vote has the opportunity. And that's about it.
Any questions?
Yes.
I know you've worked for a while as a supervisor. Are there any issues that you see in running elections or running, maintaining the checklist that you see challenges in the upcoming years?
Actually, I have not worked as a supervisor.
Okay.
So I can repeat the question, but I can't answer it. Great,
Good.
thank you.
The next 2 people are for a 4-year term, and you vote for one. And the first is Michael Dean.
For what?
Supervisor the checklist. We haven't moved on yet. I liked Jane's points.
So this year during the election, the Democratic primary or the primary election, I volunteered to help count ballots, and I watched the supervisors over at their corner doing their work. And I thought, that's detail oriented, and I love scrubbing data and making it correct and making sure that all the data that goes into the databases is proper. That's a big part of my job in IT. It's one of the tasks that I just, when I do it and I do it well, it feels like meditation almost. So when I saw them doing that work and I got to participate in counting the ballots, I thought, that's something I can do. It will get me out. It won't, and I'm good at it. I enjoy it. So that's pretty much what I have to offer the supervisor of the checklist role. Good at it. I like it. And I really like what Jane said about helping ensure that people who are legally eligible to vote are registered correctly so that they can exercise that right. Questions? Dr. Beaufait?
Okay, we have people come in for same-day registration. Maybe you don't know them. They present some proof of residency. Is that followed up on, and who does that?
I haven't done this work before yet, so I haven't studied the law.
That's part of your job.
Thank you. Dr. Buffet says it will be. So the question that David Stewart asked is about when people come in for same-day registration and present documentation to us, will that be set aside and verified at a later time? And I said, I believe that's true, but I don't know the laws in detail because I haven't done that work yet. I did read about the position and I read some of the RSAs about it. But Dr. Buffet, who has more experience with this, says, yes, that is done. Any other questions? Dr. Buffet?
My question is, if you're running for select board and other offices as well, although there may not be formal legal conflict of interest, it seems to me that as a leader on the board, on the select board, that some of these other offices, somewhat subordinate in one way or another, are there might be at least an informal conflict of interest. How do you address that?
Frankly, I asked the select board today and I asked the town attorney. So if I'm elected to select board, one of the first things I'll have to find out is, do I need to give up any of the other seats? I'm pretty sure cemetery and checklist, no, there won't be any conflict there. There's no prohibition against select board member serving in those positions also. But some of the other boards, there might be, and I will ask the question, which boards is it okay for me to continue to serve on? And I'll act appropriately.
Should you have done that before we filed for that?
Maybe.
Because we have, if you get voted in and one that you're not, if you should vacate, that means I don't want to say chaos, but something else is going to happen. Most definitely then.
Well, today
I the will of the people.
Can I answer?
Yeah, answer. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so in this election, what I'm running for are offices that don't conflict.
Oh, you know that?
Yes,
I thought you said, you will find out.
I'm on other boards.
Yes, I know.
So, for example, I have an elected position on the budget committee. And I don't know the rules about how many select board persons can sit on the budget committee. So one, okay, so I may have to give up that seat if I'm elected to select board, but I'm not asking you to vote me into budget today. Cemetery won't be any problem. Checklist won't be any problem.
We're staying with the supervisors of the checklist, and the next person is Michelle Foot Pierce. And this is for a 4-year term.
And to the previous question, because Lynn and I have been doing the checklist. Yeah, we do not, the supervisors are not the ones that check the residency. But it does get checked, probably the moderator, I don't know. But we
I
don't,
think it's submitted by the supervisor.
yeah. Yeah. We also don't check the citizenship either, but there's an affidavit and then that needs to be followed up on as well. So, hi, everybody. My name is Michelle. I have not been here for 40 years, but I have, thank you. But I have been in this area since I was born. I grew up in West Lebanon, graduated Lebanon High School in '75. I left right after I graduated my first, well, not right after, soon after graduating my first graduate degree. I left for the same reasons that I actually came back. I left when I was in my early 20s because it was too rural, it was boring, too many trees, not enough to do, not enough excitement. So here I am, it's like, yes, too rural, too many trees, not enough excitement, that's where I'm going. And actually, my family is all still here and they've been living in Enfield for quite a time now. You might recognize my name, Donna Foote, is on Lock Haven, and the Berniers are my relatives, and Leanne Foote is my sister. So I do hail from these here parts, and New Englander, born and bred, got a big sign, live free or die, in my laundry room. So I'm really happy to be back. I have been helping Lynn out with the supervisor of the checklist since last year, maybe 6 months-ish. Was volunteered and then was appointed because there was a lack, an opening there. And so just started doing it to help out. I do have, I can't say that I find details of meditation like Mike does. I actually teach meditation. Trust me, that's not meditation. But I do find helping out, getting to know people in the community, because I really want to be more involved, but I think this is a great way to start out because it's very, the role is extremely defined. Sometimes Lynn has to call Concord about 10 times to find out what the definition is, but we are finding it out and putting the systems in place. I do have experience with developing and running programs. I have a graduate degree in nursing, graduate degree in counseling psychology, and a doctorate in healthcare ministry. And I've put together case management programs. I was over utilization review, quality assurance, and case management when I was living in the South. So I have some of that experience, which is not used, by the way, in the supervisor of the checklist position. However, it's good to have some intelligence as you're moving through it. So I hope you will vote for me. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes.
And I don't know this, but there's ears in the room. What I would ask, do you ever have the need for assistive technology with people, you know, pocket blockers or things with people with a hearing impairment, things like that? I can't remember ever coming in vote and seeing that stuff. And now I'm wondering.
Not that I have seen, and not since we've been doing this, the last election, we did make use of the disabled booths that were there so people could be wheeled up. They didn't have to navigate into the standing booths, but other assisted devices we haven't had a need for that I'm aware of. Do you know, Lynn? Keep looking at Lynn. Oh, well, that's good to know, actually. Yeah, it's great to know.
Looking when we're running elections in Whitney Hall, you probably all remember the one Kent. And that was for assisted volume capacity.
Yeah, yeah. So we do have people that will help as well. We'll go in with somebody and help them. Yes. Question. Thank you.
We're still staying with supervisor of the checklist. The next person is Lynn Langley, and this is for a 6-year term, and you will vote for one person.
Can everyone hear me? No? Oh, okay, sorry, it's not for here, okay. My name's Lynn Lang, and Michelle kept looking over at me because I got her into this. I'll start with myself. I have, I'm born and raised in New Hampshire, born in Lebanon, went to Lebanon High School. And, you know, raised I left and went to California. I'm not good at group meetings anyway. So I went to Lebanon. I've been a resident of Enfield for over 35 years now. I did a Michelle thing. I left here because I hated Enfield. I hated New Hampshire. It was too rural, too boring. Went to California, came back, and I've been here since. So since 1986, I've been basically in Enfield. I have a work experience of, I worked in compliance and audit. I've worked in medical professional coding. I'm a certified professional coder, and I am a certified internal auditor. So my experience has helped me as far as being very critical in thinking. I want things to be accurate. I'm going to always look for that penny in my checkbook. And to me, when I retired in 2022, and I wanted to kind of give back to the community because I always had to work away from Enfield, I wanted to meet my neighbors. I inquired about possibilities, and I was directed to the supervisors of the checklist. They had a need for help. So I volunteered to help them at the midterms in 2022. The volunteers would take the registration forms and gather the information, and then the voters had to go to the supervisors to get signed off. That was my first experience. So after that, they had an opening they had someone that needed to step down. So I was appointed to fill in that role, which I did. And so I've been working with the current supervisors, Sue Blaine and Nancy White, for the last year and a half, learning all I can from them. Nancy White has been doing this for like, I don't know, 20 years. I think Sue was doing it for like 6-year term, I think was hers. So I've been trying to learn as much as I can from them. But that said, I feel it's time to move to learn more. So I'm trying to learn from my perspective because they've taught me what they can. Things change. I'm calling Concord a lot to clarify things. I'm learning the database. I mean, as a new one comes, I'm learning a lot of different things. They're stepping away, so I feel that I'm the continuity that's going to bring it forward. So that's why I want to be on the 6 years. I want to see us grow. Sorry. And move the adventure forward. So any questions? I know questions have been asked everybody else, but. Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
The next person is running for trustee of the trust funds, but she wasn't here for another position, so that's Michelle Illich DeVos. It's a 3-year term. For ZBA, I just read Dan Regan. He's running, it's a 3-year term. You vote for 2. And the second person is Bill Finger.
Hello, my name is Bill Finger. I've been in Enfield since 2001, which I think is a pretty long time, but I know it still makes me a kid around here. Yeah, I moved to Enfield because I wanted to live here. I lived elsewhere before that. I've raised 4 kids in the district. I got married here, and now I want to give back to the community. And also, my wife wants me to get out of the house, so it's a side benefit. My goals for the ZBA is to serve with integrity and honesty and transparency. And if you're like me, I will promise to follow those goals. And yeah, I don't have a lot of experience in this position, but I think there's some people in the room that, if hard pressed, could attest to my character. I'm a student of of government and history in general, and Enfield in particular. So I'm well aware of the background of the town. And I think I can use the master plan and also the what everybody finds attractive about the town to guide decisions for the zoning board. That's it.
Any questions?
Yes.
I'm wondering what you feel the challenges are, being a member of the ZBA and.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I haven't served in the role before, but my understanding is that there'll be conflicts between what developers want and what's good for the town, and we have to sort of reach compromises in those conflicts. And my background's an engineer, so hopefully I can use those technical skills to make rational decisions about that cost benefit analysis. Tim?
Thanks, Coach. Enjoy grade 3-4 boys soccer. I guess, have you had any experience with people being ugly? Someone who's on off 20 years on and off with ZBA, I just think it's and giving the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
You're not happy sometimes, that's all.
Yeah, I'm not too afraid about people being unreasonable. I think as long as you bring calm and tell them the facts, I think everybody will come around. They can't be worse than soccer parents anyway. Yeah, David.
Are you reasonable? And would you? I've had a little experience with ZBA in the past. Do you think you would tend to be more biased toward obstructing somebody from doing something? If you had a choice, I'm gonna follow law, or being a little more liberal as much as is allowed?
I think that question is a little leading, and I'm gonna have to say that it would depend very much on the circumstances. But in general, I'll try to be as unbiased and transparent as possible.
No, that's okay, it shouldn't be a bias. I'll just say it.
I think what you're getting at is
Let me ask you this. If this is bias. But as far as they were concerned, they would have no more houses built in Enfield. Is that a bias position, but going into a?
yeah, that doesn't sound like an appropriate position to hold for the zoning board. I mean, we have to moderate development with the character of the town. Okay, thank you.
You can talk about it.
The ZBA is bound by the law as to what they can do. There is no place for bias.
I think so, man.
So we're gonna move on to library trustee. It's for a 3-year position. There are 2 people and you vote for one. And the first one is Shirley Green.
Oh, yeah.
Have to read from a paper, I'll get all mixed up and forget things I want to say. My name is Shirley Green, and I'm running for library trustee. I have been a full-time resident of Enfield since 2000. I was a seasonal resident for 25 years prior to that. I love the community and have tremendously enjoyed being part of many committees, commissions, and boards. And I particularly love the library and have worked very hard to help get to the exciting place the library has reached today. It has been a long journey with many ups and downs. but the end is in sight. And it is so exciting to see the renovation and expansion work taking place. I was asked to be on the first building committee in 2007. I was appointed to be a library trustee in 2011 to fill a vacant position and was elected to the position in 2012. I have served as the treasurer for the Library Trustee Board since 2011 and as co-chair of the board for the past 2 years. In addition to my regular duties, I have served on the building committee and the fundraising committee continuously throughout the years. More recently, I was appointed to the Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee in 2020 and the Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee Design Team representing the Board of Trustees. In this process, I am also working with the Office of the Attorney General in the Charitable Trust Division in Concord and with our town manager representing our donors. It is a pleasure to work with the other trustees, Kate and the staff. I feel that we are truly a team with a shared goal of making the library the very best that it can be. The staff are the heart of the library. The libraries and books have always been important to me.
I tried, I
Libraries
found,
provide a vital service to communities, to people from all walks of life, and from the very young to the very old. At this time, reading with my 2-year-old and 4-year-old grandsons gives me the greatest joy. And seeing them love to read. I still have a lot to do before the library is completed. So I am asking for your vote on Tuesday, so I may see this project that means so much to all of us through its completion. Thank you.
Any questions?
Oh.
Shirley, I'm curious if the trustees have any sort of plan or thoughts about obtaining further donations from the wide community to put towards the cost of the project.
Yes. We've been, we sent a postcard out before Christmas because we had two people that offered gifts, one 25,000 from Dorothy Byrne and another 10,000 from the Kovacs for a match for that. And we just sent out another letter that went in the mail yesterday to people to hopefully raise more money for the challenge, because we are just a couple $1,000s away from meeting both of those challenges. Plus, if we make more, hopefully we will get another gift for that. And we're also asking, there are quite a few people who are, if you donate 5,000, your name will be placed on the recognition board in the library. And if there are quite a few people that have that goal in mind but haven't met it yet, and we're hoping that they will step up by September, when we'll be creating that board so their name will be on there. And there's also for anyone who gives 1,000 or more, we'll get a cat's meow. But any gift that we receive, whether it be small or large, will help the library. All of the funds that have been donated by donors and all the funds that will only be used for things that are purchased for the library, in the library. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much, but I'm just wondering if the trustees foresee receiving any really large donations from places.
It's still to be seen. We're going to be working on it, and and raise as much as we can to reduce the amount that it takes, because whatever we raised will reduce the amount that for the bond for the cost of the whole building.
My last comment, I just want to say, as part of you being a trustee, that I don't use the library. I know I could and should, but I don't, but I really want to admire all the work and energy that the library staff and trustees have put into new programs and things and opportunities that are available to the community. I think they've done a great job.
Thank you. We do have a wonderful director and staff. The library is in a great place. It really is.
Thank you. We're out of time.
Okay, well, my time's up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Shirley, for everything you do.
Thank you. And please vote for me.
Again, this is library trustee. The next person is Susan Brown. It's a 3-year term and you vote for one person.
Okay. First thing I want to say is thank you, David, for starting these things and to the committee for putting on these forums. This is really important for all of us. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. That's George Santayana. That's why I think libraries are probably the most important thing in town. I've been in Enfield longer than you may know. I was a Shaker singer since 1998. I've been on several committees there. I founded 16 years ago the Broom Project that contributes to the income of the museum every year, probably more than $600. I've been using libraries since before I could walk. I was chair of the Haverhill Corner Library Trustees from 78 to 88. Haverhill had 4 libraries. They were all private, and they got some money from the town, but mostly they had to raise it by donations. I was treasurer at Latham Library in Thetford, representative to their Library Federation Board. We worked toward a union catalog, an online circulation, and we got it. In 1996, I earned a Vermont Library Media Certificate. I'm a dedicated user of the library, a fan of the great staff. I donate books. I helped the Enfield Book Group get online during the pandemic, and we're glad to meet at the library out on 4A now. And there was a question at one of these get-togethers, and it has stuck with me. Are libraries relevant? Well, yes, of course they are. Why? Because libraries hold all the knowledge of the world. History, technology, science, literature have been written down for thousands of years and kept in caves, in buildings, in tombs, on scrolls, and in books. There are lots of different libraries: County Register of Deeds, Town Records, State archives, cookbooks, medical knowledge and records, how-to manuals, and too many more that we can mention. They exist in our offices and our homes everywhere. We use them every day. All that stuff on the internet, where was it first? A lot of it in books, newspapers, magazines, and research papers. Furthermore, the public library serves a critical function in the town. Some people have no access to computers, no access to the internet, no other way to obtain information. So where can they go? To the library. Libraries and librarians are up to date on the technology, and every day they provide patrons with necessary information. So you have all the bells and whistles at home, but what if the power goes out and you can't charge all those batteries? You can go to the library. I hope they have power. Our library has the ability to get any written or other materials you need via interlibrary loan and the New Hampshire State Library. Public libraries are an amazing source of information. In closing, I've said over and over that the most important thing you can do for your kid's brain is read to them. Our library has a wealth of books for kids, along with story hours, music, activities, and lots of great things for everything. Come to the library. It's tomorrow, Thursday night is the tiny art show opening, and Shirley made a really nice thing for the librarians. Lots of great things for everything. Come to the library and next week, please vote for me.
Questions?
Yes.
Only one question.
I do.
You don't have any overdue books, do you?
I always have overdue books. Of course I do. I borrow the books, I read them and I give them back. But do you know, Tim, that the library does not charge fines for overdue
Yeah.
books? In Thetford, we had a conscience box and it sat on the desk and it brought in a lot more money than fines until one of the kids who lived nearby stole it. So then we Velcroed it to the desk and we kept our money. David.
This thing goes to both of you. My understanding was with some overruns occurring in the building of the for Whitney Hall renovations and the new building expansion for the town offices, that there was some considerable overrun, and that the library trustees were approached for funding at least a part of that. Is that true? And so do you expect that to continue?
I don't know because I'm not a trustee yet, but I've written grants. I wrote one for Alumni Hall in Haverhill that got quite a bit of money, and I'm perfectly willing to write grants and see what we can do to get more money for the library. That's important.
There was 162,000 over and the contract could not be signed until we were sure that that money was available. So the library trustees were asked to say we would give up to the 162,000, and with the understanding it may not even be needed. The problem was the contract needed to be signed then for the project to proceed, and so we voted to use up to 163,000 if it's needed. If it is, but there will be cuts. We'll go through the next few months where that will be cut. And that 162,000, if indeed it is used, which I doubt that it will be because we're still fundraising, will be used only for things in the library. Does that answer the question?
Clear on that. 162 out of the 400,000, is that what we're talking about? So voted by the town?
No, this is 162,000 from our fundraising.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think 160, maybe 162 was the number when I think it was done, the town voted the library.
It was 400,000 in the beginning, and then there were a lot of that was used to start the campaign and for other expenses. Right now, I believe it's approximately 278,000 that's in that trust fund that will go towards cutting the cost of the wall.
Okay, family plan. So some of the money is stacked up for fundraising, for Kickstarter. Would you use that for drawing up plans for the building?
Yes, and that's in the beginning, and that was part of Lindbergh.
We need to move on. This save it for general questions. Thank you. The last group is cemetery trustee. It's a 3-year term, vote for one. Peggy DiStefano.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Peggy DiStefano when they came over to Ellis Island, but you know what happens there sometimes. It became, well, you know, DiStefano. In any case, I'm really glad to be here, and it's only fitting that cemetery trustee should be last, isn't that right? I know it takes a minute for me to kind of crank up, but once I'm there, believe me, you'll be glad you stayed. When I became aware of the vacancy as on the cemetery trustees board, I made it known to the select board that I would be interested. I looked into it a little bit. Oh, thank you, Angus. I looked into it a little bit and I said, oh, I think I can find something to contribute and something to learn. And so I submitted the application to the select board and they very generously appointed me. But I think you ought to know what they asked on the questionnaire. So let me refer to my notes, because if you're on the listserv, thank you, John, thank you, Mike, the main line to Enfield. Then you've seen the printed narrative. So feel free to refer. But I haven't changed my story since I posted that. So this is going to be essentially the same thing. And so the first thing they asked me was, why did I apply? And I told them pretty straightforward that I was really impressed that Enfield was so obviously devoted to maintaining public space for a cemetery. And as a matter of fact, I have plots there in the Lock Haven Cemetery. So trust me when I say I'm not going anywhere. Then they asked on the questionnaire, what skills can I contribute? Well, I'd like to think of myself as a skilled communicator, a skilled collaborator. I have been a trainer, a practitioner, and a professor of criminal justice. So I did lock people up, I did read them their rights, and sometimes I even advise them to exercise them starting now. And I have taught in colleges and universities on both coasts, achieved tenure on both coasts. And when I retired in 2012, I adjuncted around, even here in New Hampshire. And I taught in New York, Connecticut, California, where I spent an awfully long time. I thought I was going to stay there forever. I still have a plot there, but don't tell anybody. But I didn't, because New Hampshire called. In 1975, I was visiting my aunt and uncle Sinclair, and I bought my acres on Bicknell Brook Road, which is now Grafton Pond Road. I fully intended to return, and guess what? I did. I came back. I started building my home in 2006, and I staked my claim. I was going to come to New Hampshire. I was going to stay in New Hampshire, and here I am.
It's time for questions.
Okay, it certainly is time for questions. So let me answer those questions.
I have a
Please.
question.
Hi,
The
Steve.
question is, if you are elected, will you work towards renewing some of the cemetery signs? I know that when Richard Henderson was on the board, he went around and did a lot of work on signs and they looked really nice. And now some of them are not looking so good. But would you please work on the signs?
I will take that, that suggestion. I only attended a handful of meetings as a result of my being appointed. And my learning curve is still obviously part of the theme of the evening. But Bridget Labrie, our sexton, she is so proactive. She is so on the ball. And signage, as well as rehabilitating stones that maybe are suffering from age and weather and so forth. So I will definitely bring that to the group's attention at our first meeting, should I be elected. Yes, please, David.
Hey, sir, I was a cemetery trustee for a while. We worked with Richard Henderson. And I first got out of the elevator, who flew me in how when he first became cemetery trustee, he found the town was not doing something to do with every town meeting, that's transferring cemetery money from plots to the cemetery trust fund. But the town had been keeping it in general fund, which is against the law, and it was $30,000. And the town was not real cool about wanting to give them that money. So beware the town, for believing. Where those people seem to have been fixed. But he simply told them, maybe I should get a state order for that. He didn't need it about money.
but Fred was a great guy. But the signs, I think, the way they constructed their wood, and they cut the spring around and the paint, I'm a painter, and it just gives it too much place for water to get in there and then it just destroys it. Much simpler metal, fair enough. But I applaud you for, stepping up. I think it's underappreciated, and, you're standing up for people who obviously can't stand up for themselves.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you, thank you.
and the second person for cemetery trustee and the last person to speak is Mike Dean.
So I was first, now what's So I liked hearing Steve Patton's question, because every day, multiple times a day, I drive past the Lock Haven and Town Cemetery signs, and I've watched them over the past couple of years. They got redone a while ago, but I've watched them over the past couple of years just get a little more rustic as time goes by. So yeah, that's one of my main motivations, is to try to help get. This is kind of scary to say after everybody's pounding on taxes, but take my experience with budget to the cemetery and help them ask for more money from the town so that we can do those sign repairs. Now, I'm not even sure what the state of the cemetery trustee funds are. I don't know what the sexton's priorities are, and I don't know what the workload is yet. But even going into the position, that would be what I was looking at. Was I'd like to see the signs restored, and I'd like to see at least the facing walls restored. And I know these are already on the agenda to be done. So what drew me to it? We have 29 cemeteries in town. Most of those are maintained by the town. And we frequently would go to the cemeteries with our kids when they were little. That was a thing that we could do. We enjoyed that. I got more interested when I was helping the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts go out and place all the veterans flags around town on the various cemeteries. And finally, I started to learn more about them and seek them out as part of an online game that I was playing. And all of the cemeteries are listed, and you're supposed to go to the cemeteries and learn a little bit about them and put them in the system. And I found that I kept going back. I kept getting drawn back to the cemeteries. So when I went to sign up for offices, and at the time was told that nobody else had signed up yet for cemetery, I thought, well, let's find out what that's about. It didn't sound like a very heavy workload. And I thought, that's another way I can give back. Questions? Yes, sir.
What was that number again, number of cemeteries in Enfield?
The question from Charlie is, how many cemeteries did I say we have? And I said we have 29. Angus?
As a former cemetery trustee, we budgeted 2 years ago for all the signs to be replaced. I think there's 16 town signs, and I think 14 of them were replaced this year. I'm not sure the 2 remaining signs, but that'll be done hopefully shortly, or this spring.
Did everybody hear? The signs have largely been replaced, so we may not have to do that work or much of that work. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Angus. Thank you, Bill.
So this isn't in my job description tonight, but I'm impressed with the backgrounds of the people running for office and the enthusiasm. It's pretty exciting. So we're going to open it up to general questions to anybody that you want to ask another question to, from whether it be from selectmen to cemeteries. No, no, you're a selectman. I didn't say.
I have a fun question, to the two cemetery trustee candidates. What's your favorite cemetery?
Well, I think mine by definition is the Lock Haven Cemetery, because, you know.
My favorite is actually the one next to it, down cemetery. They share a front wall. I like them both, but my favorite is down there.
Any more questions for anyone?
I have a question for Kate. I would like to know what your position is on the TIP and CIP.
It's up to you.
There's still 17 people.
Me and my inhalers. Sure. The question was from Steve Patton, and it was, what is my position as I believe a select board member on TIF and CIP? So TIF is the tax increment financing district, for those of you who aren't familiar. And TIF is an overlay district. So in zoning, you have your different zones, and then there are the overlay pieces where we, as a town, at a prior town meeting, delineated and basically capped. So that means on the day it was voted and enacted, they capped the taxes, and then new taxes flow into the TIF district. It is a funding tool that is available to towns. We have debated it over the years, and I will tell you that I questioned it myself when there was some financial fraud but in an investment firm, and Enfield held funds. It became very clear that TIF was not in the positive for a while, so you couldn't just dissolve it. I wanted to see the committee become active and make a plan and present it at town meeting. So you will see that go forward at town meeting, and I really do want to hear what people in town think. Because if it's a good funding tool and people in town feel it's a good funding tool, I'm all for it. If we feel like it's not serving us well as a funding tool, then I want to consider as a board putting up a warrant article to eliminate it. CIP, I feel, is crucial. It has helped level taxes. You know, we tell the nickel joke every year. When it was originally put into place, the idea was that with inflation, the nickel would help each year, year over year, and it would be a bit of a savings account and also used to pay maybe some capital leases, with the idea that eventually we'd be making more and more cash purchases. So CIP has been able to help us make decisions when interest rates are low to finance and use that financing as a tool, a financial tool. And when they're high, like right now, we have the choice to pay for some of these larger acquisitions, particularly vehicles, in cash. And CIP committee is appointed, and they make recommendations to the select board. So I do feel that they are a very good tool. Follow up?
So the TIF district all has lower taxes than the rest of us.
No. So the question was, does the TIF district have lower taxes and then the rest of us? And the answer is, it sounds like that, maybe from how I answered it, and I apologize if I did that. So they capped it in the sense that so say, we'll do an easy example, right? Because we know it's probably not true. So if you had a $50,000, a house that was taxable at $50,000 on that day, it capped it, right? So your house gains in value over time. So say now it's 100,000, the additional $50,000, the taxes on the additional $50,000 goes into the TIF vehicle. Does that make sense?
Well, those of us who are not in the TIF district are subsidizing the TIF district.
That's a double-edged sword, because TIF, the idea of TIF is that there is some increase in value from being in the district, and there are projects like sidewalks and transportation components. So it's very hard to say what's subsidizing what. Theoretically, anytime you make a decision to use one vehicle or another, you are offsetting or subsidizing. So you could view it both ways.
I'll sit down.
Okay, I want to be rude to you. Oh, listen. Am I saying or am I going?
I don't know who the question's aimed at. Same to you.
Sure.
So it seems that, going back to the years of Lee Courier, it seems that we had different pockets of money in different funds. So we had, the ambulance fund, the land acquisition fund, etc. And it seems now that coming up in, the warrant that we're gonna be voting on, is to take some of those funds out of those separate funds out and putting them in the capital improvements. My concern is what's gonna happen, why are we doing that? Because to me, I'd rather know when we need an ambulance, that there is money there. Because I think if you're just putting it into the general fund, you're spending it on whatever it seems appropriate, but you're not saving it for other things that might be big payments. So could you please explain?
So I'm going to try to summarize that really short. So there's a warrant article coming up where there were over the years approved at town meeting capital funds, not capital improvement funds, but funds like the land acquisition fund. And they have been on the books. When capital improvement went into place, those don't dissolve automatically. So there's a housekeeping article coming down. So that's my kind of short of the long. And then the question is, why are we doing it? Is that okay?
About what's the need for
Sure. So I think it's pretty clear to me that capital improvement has got some pretty good history in this town. It's a strong vehicle, and we don't need these vehicles that we aren't using sitting out there on the books. We shouldn't keep trying to put money into capital improvement for things that are these funds are covered by capital improvement. So we're dissolving the ones that are like duplicitous, right? Not like in a bad sense, but they're a duplicate fund. And we're asking voters to put them all into one place. So because we're already planning projects, and to be quite honest, as you change folks in the office, right? Somebody might forget that one fund was here or there. That land acquisition fund money belongs in the capital improvement fund. Do I get to run away? Am I leaving? Okay. It's okay.
They were talking about one of the things they mentioned is a new position for a public information officer. Do you know if that has, if that's going to be something that's going to happen in 2022?
Sure, I can answer that. So the strategic plan is kind of a directional plan that was put together by the select board, kind of at the very, very high level. And then the town offices in each department contributed to it in the mid-level and to align our priorities so that we can ask ourselves questions like, should we be doing this project? Does it align with our priorities? When we say the same question, does it align with the master plan? So Joan's question was, are we going to add a new position that is a communications officer, basically? And the answer is, we're not adding it next year. You would see it in the budget right now. So I can tell you that it's something that we talked about in improving our communications and how we work with the public and how we get information out. There is a lot of interest in how we consolidate it. And so that is why that conversation, that idea is there. And I want to be very clear, like, just because something goes on paper as an idea, doesn't mean we can't consider whether we can afford it, right?
As a newbie, I'm still trying to learn, right? I've learned best by doing a lot of it. One of the things that really frustrating me is I go to the town website and I'm looking for milking and things like that, and it's just not able to release like the big budget public budget meeting that was done on Tuesday. That's been shown for the last 3 years. And we're supposed to be, you know, I keep on feeling voters aren't informed, but how can we be informed if we can't attend a meeting and we can't get the information online? The other thing that I think is interesting is,
Hey, Dave,
the
a
facility.
little consideration, please.
Yeah. The facilities committee meets once a week, correct? Once a week.
It's, I do not sit on the MVAC committee. Shirley does. I'm looking for, oh, there's Shirley. It's bi-monthly.
Twice a month.
Yeah, bi-monthly, okay.
There are times we get more often, but and now it's for each building will be once a week.
Can I just repeat it for the online folks?
Well, I couldn't find any minutes for any meetings, posted after December 2023. Are they in?
They should be on there.
What are the agendas?
Okay. Can I maybe help the online people just out of respect for them as well? Okay, so we've got multiple questions on deck about minutes and whether they should be available. And that is something the select board has frequently talked about. One of the things that we did this year to work on trying to get the minutes online in a more timely fashion was Ed assigned different department heads to oversee different committees in an effort to do the follow-up checks. I am going to tell you right now, occasionally I look and I see things aren't online. Folks are humans, so if you don't see them online, feel free to just call the office and ask. They'll get them, and it will also prompt them to put them online. So now that you've said this to me and I haven't looked for those particular ones, I'm gonna go ask and be like, hey, so where are the minutes, CJ? Because I do ask. So the website is being rebuilt, but guess what? Like every other thing in life that had a COVID related to play, we're like way behind in the line. So they did start the rebuild. It was a great website when it's built, but websites have a relatively short shelf life and are very expensive. So, but it's almost like by the time you get an awesome website built, it's like somebody else has something cool too.
So it's a school night. You wanna,
Don't we have like a lot of meetings on?
Yeah, and that's why we.
but anyway, it's a school night, so if we can wrap this up.
It's not only the minutes, it's also the agendas of that.
Yeah.
And Ed is on that committee.
And that is a subcommittee and ad hoc, so it's not an elected or appointed, but my personal bar that I've always set is that I expect those to be published regardless, because I think it is helpful. And I appreciate they're looking and reading them.
I think we'll quickly add, the meetings are on the 7th and 4th Tuesday at 3:30.
Last one.
So, okay, do you want, if I call you every time something's not posted?
So the town operations is in charge of posting. So if it is not posted and I would write to Ed and Elisa and they can delegate it to the department that is supposed to be checking on it. And you can CC me every single time. I don't mind, honestly, if you guys have a concern, you don't feel like, you can CC me, right? My town
No,
email.
I'm gonna call you because I don't do.
I will totally write, I will write the email for you and I will CC Jean.
So, I'm gonna put your number on speed dial.
That's my job.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right, thank you, everyone. If you have other questions, I'm sure that you can reach people individually, and thank you for coming and good night.
Thank you.